The gaming industry is full of trends, good and bad. Companies are always trying to figure out what's going to make their game more appealing so they can snatch more money out of your wallet. And sometimes those trends, they go a little too far in the wrong direction for one reason or another. What is up, everybody? Jimmy or Chaos. Today, we're going to look at 20 trends in gaming that you're sick of. You hate, you want to just be gone, canceled, and die. So let me know in the comments which of these trends is your least favorite, or if we missed your least favorite trend, you let me know what that is as well. And we're going to start off at number 20 with a general consensus. Ugly menus. It never used to be a problem. Ever since the rise of streaming services like Netflix and Hulu, it seems like a lot of games are trying to emulate that interface on their menus, and this has led to some of the most ugly and unappealing menu designs in gaming history. Now, an obvious example of what I mean is take a look at a game like classic Modern Warfare 2. Had one of the smoothest and most clear menus in gaming history. Then, take a look at the reboot Modern Warfare 2, and it looks honestly like a failed Disney Plus clone. Why do menus go horizontally now instead of vertically? What's the deal with all the giant panels instead of just giving us simple words? I think this is a result of the gaming industry having way too many people hired to sit around offices and look busy. So then it leads to a ton of over-designed menus that don't do anything to help you understand what the heck you're clicking on or when you're where you're trying to go. Just bring back old school game menus. There's nothing wrong with them. Simpler is better. Before we move on, guys, do me a favor. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you leave me a comment on what you would like to see next on the channel. I read every single comment on every single video, and we are on our way this year. 2026 is the year where we actually try to hit 3 million subscribers on this channel. At number 19. Always online campaigns. Why in the world do I have to be online if I want to go play a single player game? Why the heck can I lose all my progress in an offline campaign if my internet goes down? I don't know why and when we let this happen. Who remembers back when, we'll call it the old days, Diablo 3 was first announced to be always online? The gaming world, they revolted. Everybody was pissed off, but now, fast forward a decade, and always online single player campaigns, they're common. They shoved it down our throats, and now we have to accept it. What happened? Why did we allow it? And what is to be gained by forcing online requirements into offline experiences? Literally, all this does is introduce a ton of potential problems that don't actually make the experience any better in return. Always online requirements for campaign needs to go away. At number 18, pleasing the streamers. Now, I'm glad the gaming industry has recognized the value of streamers, but there has been a lot of instances where developers listening to streamers instead of their general fan base has led to some really bad changes. You guys know what I'm talking about. A streamer has an inherently different experience with a game than the average player does, and the kind of things that a streamer might want implemented to a game in order to make their stream better are often not the kinds of things that we as regular gamers want for the game. We saw this all over the place in the late 2010s. Even the early 2020s, when streaming exploded, developers would be desperate to get their game popular with the streamers so they could get more eyes on their product. And then they would take some bad advice from a streamer who wanted something to make the experience better for them personally, and the whole game would suffer. Again, I'm glad the gaming industry now recognizes the value of creators marketing their game. But sometimes the streamers, they don't have very good ideas at all because, again, the streamers are inherently having a different experience with the game than the average player. I think the developers need to be aware of this and quit being so thirsty for the streamers' viewers that are watching. At number 17, new accounts. New accounts everywhere. How many passwords do you need? How many new accounts do you have to have? How many EA platform, Battlefield platform, Call of Duty platform, every type of Ubisoft platform? Why do I have to make a new account every time I want to play a new game? Seems like every single company is now pushing their own kind of account integration, and it doesn't actually make the experience any better for you and me. It doesn't. Heck, a lot of the time it makes things worse. Remember about a year ago when Sony was trying to shove PSN accounts into the PC versions of their game? That led to a ton of people actually getting locked out of the game they already paid for, because the PSN accounts didn't work on every PC in every region of the world. Not everything needs an account login, especially not a single-player offline game. I'm looking at you, Sony and Rockstar here. Let me buy the game, let me install it, and let me play it at my own leisure. You don't need my email to let me play God of War or Red Dead 2. At number 16, AI. I'm not going to say AI slop, but AI. AI is an amazing tool. It is. There's no denying it. And there are a lot of avenues of game development that I don't think people would mind being assisted with AI. I mean, bug detection, optimization, those are the kinds of things that AI could help with, and I don't think anybody would be upset about it. But when people talk about AI in video games as a bad thing, they're referring to when AI is used to design, as a design tool. And it almost always completely is obvious. I'm sure you've all seen the various examples of Call of Duty using AI in their cosmetics, which is insulting given how much money is being poured into Call of Duty's development every single year. You really can't find a single artist on the team to make some calling cards. You have to use AI for that. But there's other recent games that have come under fire for using AI as a way to not have to design various textures or character models. It's pretty clear. Everybody can sniff it out when something is made by AI versus being made by a human developer. Like I said, AI is great for certain things, but it's insulting for others. If I'm going to pay money for a video game, I expect it to be made by a real passionate person at a real studio who actually needs the money to maintain their facilities and pay their salaries and support their families. Gamers don't feel good about paying money for something that was just made with a couple prompts in an AI engine. I mean, what am I playing for at that point? Why am I paying the developer when they didn't even make the thing they're selling? And you guys see on X all the time, people post, AI video games are almost there, and then they show this minute-long AI video game that's laughable. At number 15, graphical obsessions. Up until recently, video games were aware of the fact they weren't going to look lifelike, which meant the developers could be creative with their art styles, give all their games distinct visual styles. But now that the video games actually can look lifelike, that has led to a lot of developers just trying to push the visual boundaries and make their games as realistic as possible, which means not only do the games now run worse because the hardware is rendering much more complicated things than it was before, it also means the gameplay has to get simpler and simpler, because if the graphics are so super hyper realistic and lifelike, that means the way the characters move is also more lifelike. You can't have things like double jump, super fast runs when the game is trying to look lifelike, because those are things that don't exist in real life. I mean, the obsession with super high quality lifelike visuals has made gaming more static and boring, if you ask me. It's all being done for the sake of something that people don't really care about. I mean, there are some games you want to look great, right? The fidelity, the graphics and everything, but at the end of the day, you also want it to feel like a video game, because if it loses that, we're kind of losing the point. At number 14, speaking of losing the point, pointless remasters. Now, some games get remastered for good reasons. Other games get remastered, and it is a complete waste of time. Look at Sony's game release during the PS5 era. You'll see what I mean. Days Gone remastered. Last of Us 2 remastered. Why not just give us Days Gone 2, right? Horizon Zero Dawn remastered. Why are we remastering games that already looked really good and could have just been improved upon by dropping a PS5 patch for the PS4 version of the game? Why are we putting resources into making remasters that nobody asked for instead of just putting those resources into new games? I mean, Sony's first-party output during the PS5 generation has been embarrassing, but they keep pushing these remasters of games that aren't even a decade old. Heck, Last of Us 2 was barely 3 years old when the remaster was announced, and the base game already looked good. So why does the industry have to be so obsessed with graphics now, and why is that obsession going so far that we're now remastering games that don't even remotely need to be remastered? I go back to Days Gone. Why would you put all the effort into that when everybody's asking for Days Gone 2? Just continue the story. At number 13, Battle Passes. Fortnite was not the first game to do Battle Passes, but they were definitely the game that made them popular. At first, Battle Passes were a neat way for new cosmetic content to be added to a multiplayer game. It encouraged you to play the game, and it rewarded you for sinking some time into it, but it also came with some cool bonuses and rewards without being too intrusive. And then, when the current Battle Pass ended, it was replaced with a new one. You felt cool for having the final tier skins that would never come back to the game. It was like a badge of honor, saying you had the first Battle Pass skins from Chapter 1 of Fortnite. But now that every game has a Battle Pass system, I think people are sick of it. It's time for us to find a new way for cosmetic content to be added to the game, because when everyone is doing Battle Passes, it just makes the whole mechanic feel lazy and repetitive and grindy. I'm sure if we put our heads together, we could come up with a new way to release cosmetic content post-launch, and I'm sure we could come up with something that also incentivizes gameplay to unlock new stuff. I mean, at this point, I hate to say it, but I'd even take supply drops coming back to Call of Duty, because their Battle Passes, they suck. At number 12, seasonal content drops. Now, when seasonal content first started getting popular, thanks to games like Fortnite and Apex Legends, it was fresh, it was exciting. But now several years have gone by, and they're getting tired of frequently having to wait several weeks or months for new content to be added to the game. Or sometimes we have to wait until the next season of a game in order to get a balancing update, which would make the game objectively better if the developers just pushed it out before waiting for the next seasonal update. I remember back in the 2000s or early 2010s, we never had a problem with getting a ton of content out of the gate and then getting occasional updates every few months. But now, games won't give you new content unless it's part of a regular season update. that not only makes it feel like the developers are holding out on you when they launch the game with lackluster content, but it also adds an annoying ticking clock mechanic to the seasonal content because you have to go grind for all the new stuff. FOMO, you're going to miss it, right? Before it's pulled out of the game in favor of the next season's content. Now, some games have done a good job with content updates. Other games, they've given the whole mechanic a bad name. I think it's about time for the whole trend to die and for the developers to find a new way to give us content. Here's a crazy idea. Just give us all the content on day one when the game launches. At number 11, the yellow paint debate. It's been very loud over the last few years of gaming, and it's gotten to the point that when I just say the words yellow paint, you probably know what I'm talking about. But in case you don't know what yellow paint is, here you go. The yellow paint pandemic refers to the trend in gaming where developers have just been using yellow paint as a way to show you what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to go. It makes the process really obvious, and it doesn't require any thought from the player. The game will say, hey, you, how are you going to get out of this building? And then before you figure it out for yourself, you'll just look around and see a bunch of yellow paint splattered by the key to the door. Gaming has become less about actual problem solving and environmental awareness and more about just finding the yellow paint and following the line that draws it for you. Games like classic Resident Evil 4 or even Half-Life 2, they were really good at giving the player lots of context clues without being super obvious about what they're supposed to do. But now, nobody has the attention span. Games like the RE4 remake and the Final Fantasy VII remake, they have yellow paint everywhere. It's super low effort, it's condescending to the player, and it makes the whole experience less rewarding. At number 10, the empty open worlds. Metroid Prime 4 comes to mind. So does Forspoken, and so does Modern Warfare 3, so does Gears of 5. Let me put it this way. When an open world game is designed to have lots of stuff going on in the open world, it feels fun, it feels unique. But when the open world feels so big, the open landscape with nothing in it, it feels like the developers are wasting your time. How many games have you played recently where the open world just felt like this long walk or drive between main missions? You know, the open worlds where it's almost nothing to do or discover as you just gradually get closer to your destination. These kinds of open worlds are getting more common because it's an easy way for developers to squeeze some more playtime out of the game that wasn't actually very long. But gamers, they see it, they recognize it, and they're sick of it. Either commit to making an awesome open world or commit to a more linear experience. There's nothing wrong with either one of those decisions. Just commit to one side. If you're going to do an open world, put cool stuff for them to find along the way. At number 9, day one patches. Why in the world does every game have to be patched on day one? Why can't the whole game just be on the disc? What if I download the game early and then I go play it on launch day, but then my internet goes out and I can't download the day one patch, so I can't play the game at all? What if I get a disc on launch day and I put it in my console, install all the files, and then get ready to play the game, but then I have to wait another 2 hours for a day one patch to be applied? What do these day one patches do? They don't add more content. They don't really change anything about the game. Usually, these day one patches are early bug fixes or optimization changes, but shouldn't things just be done before the game goes gold? All these big developing studios, isn't that what they're paying everybody to do? If you're not confident that the game is going to run well on day one, why are you shipping it out at all? Since we're on the topic of patches, at number 8, constant patches. I am thankful that we live in a world where bugs can be patched quickly and overpowered guns can be nerfed if they need to be. But the amount of patches that come out on a daily basis, it's kind of insane. I think a lot of developers have just become reliant on the ability to patch their games, and it's led to them pulling out products that clearly are not finished because they know they'll just fix it. They'll patch it later after you've already spent time and money on it and gotten invested. I mean, how many times have you come home from a long day at work or school and just wanted to play your favorite game when you get on it and then you see update required pop up? Then you have to sit around and wait for it to finish. And then when it does finally finish, you now have less time to play the game you actually bought, and you don't even know what the heck the patch did. It was just a tiny change that the average player couldn't possibly track on every detail that's been adjusted. What if your internet's not fast? What if it takes all night? What's even worse, some of these patches get rushed out the door and they end up breaking more things than they fixed. Whatever happened to games just being ready to come out and then only getting patched when they needed to be patched? At number 7, grindy daily challenges. On one hand, I can appreciate when games give you something to do every day and incentivize you to log in. On the other side, daily challenges in a lot of these games have gotten so low effort and so grindy, it's very clear that a lot of these games are just trying to come up with random things for you to waste time doing so they get your precious gaming time and you don't take your hands off the controller on their game and go play another game. I mean, they want to show your playing hours to their shareholders for more money. There's ways to make daily challenges fun and rewarding. But I think you all know what I'm talking about here when I say these daily challenges are pointless grindathons that are only there to boost your playtime. and I think those need to go. Make daily challenges fun again. At number 6, platform exclusive content. I'm just going to say it. If a game is available on multiple platforms, it should have all the same content on all the versions of the game. There is no reason that I should be locked out of content because I'm playing on the PS5 instead of the Xbox, even though we both paid the same amount of money for the same game. I think this practice used to be a lot more popular. I'm thankful it's starting to be pushed out of the industry along with game exclusivity in general when it's pretty wild, but every once in a while, you'll see it, and it's annoying. If a PS5 player and an Xbox player both pay the same $70 price tag for a game, they should both get the same content. End of story. Exclusive games are one thing. Putting exclusive content in a multi-platform game, that's pretty lame. It's actually pretty crappy. Now we arrive at the top 5. Copycat multiplayer games. Now by this, I'm referring to multiplayer games that literally only exist to copy somebody else's homework. Who remembers Concord? Who remember Call of Duty DMZ? Remember all the rushed out battle royales for a few years ago? I'm not saying that no copycat games can be good because I'm a fan of Marvel Rivals, which is obviously just Overwatch cloned with Marvel paint jobs. But it's a clear problem now with AAA studios putting a lot of money into just chasing multiplayer trends, and it almost always never ends well. What was that new hero shooter from the Titanfall people that would, what was it, announced at Game Awards? High Guard or something? I don't remember what it was called. But what's the point of chasing trends this aggressively? The gamers recognize it out of the gate. It's going to fail. They're already turned off by it. I mean, there's some level of trend chasing in gaming. I get it. That's unavoidable. Now, obviously, sometimes a game comes out that takes someone else's idea and expands upon it in a fun way. That's great. But other times, multiplayer games are blatantly just trying to ride off the coattails of another game, and those games, they need to go away. And since we're talking about multiplayer games, we segue into number 4, SBMM. It was popularized by Modern Warfare's reboot era of Call of Duty. Thanks, Modern Warfare. And it found its way into other multiplayer games as well. When I say SBMM, I'm generally referring to the practice of the multiplayer game matchmaking that disregards location, disregards ping, in favor of giving the player a more enjoyable experience. And by enjoyable, the game actually means equally matched. That almost never makes the game more enjoyable. When you're constantly going up against more evenly matched players instead of a random selection of players with good connections, it's not only going to increase the queue time and introduce lag and desync issues, it also means the game gets inherently less casual since you won't be regularly playing just a random. You're going to be playing the best of the best in every lobby, and it means you can't actually get better at the game very effectively since you're only playing against people around your skill level. So you're rarely exposed to getting to play better players who might be using strategies you weren't aware of. Back in the golden age of multiplayer gaming, which I would say probably mid to late 2010s, multiplayer games were basically all connection-based. You were getting lobbies super quickly. The experience was smooth. You never knew who you were going to go up against, so you had a much better idea of how good you actually had to be compared to the rest of the player base. But now, matchmaking is so manipulated, it's hard to feel like you're doing anything right, even if the scoreboard says you're on top, because how do you know you earned the spot? How do you know the matchmaking wasn't just throwing you a bone to keep you engaged in the game? Nobody wants to be sweating like crazy in every single match just to end up with a 1 KD. And I know, we're protecting little Timmy, but that's not the way to do it. SBMM sucks, and it needs to be weeded out of gaming. At number 3, excessive DRM. Now, some level of DRM is necessary to keep piracy from running rampant, but the level of DRM in a lot of games, it's a lot. In case you didn't know, DRM is background software that is supposed to make it harder for games to be pirated. But in reality, a lot of the time, these DRM softwares just make the game run worse. They introduce a whole new level of technical problems, and they don't stop the pirates. So they're literally just punishing you, the paying customer. This has also led to situations like the one Ubisoft was in, where they were openly talking about how gamers need to be comfortable with not owning their games in the future. Who says that? Now, I know a lot of other publishers have been pushing this as well. They force so much DRM into their digital games that the gamer doesn't even own the product anymore. And that's pretty ironic, because if a pirate were to download the game illegally, they actually would own the game, because the downloaded game wouldn't be taken away from them. Again, I get the need for some level of DRM protection in digital games, but we have reached completely absurd levels with it, and it's time we roll it back. Digital games were selling just fine before the massive DRM push. You're never going to completely stop the pirates from pirating video games. Accept it to make the experience better for the actual paying customer. At number 2, in-game purchases. I think gamers' tolerance for in-game purchases goes down the more they paid for the game itself, right? It's a free game. Well, in a free game, I'm perfectly okay with pop-ups telling me about stuff I could be paying. That's not a big deal, because I didn't pay any kind of admission fee. If I paid $10 or $20 for the game, I might get a little annoyed about an in-game purchase popping up, but it's not going to make me mad. But if I pay full price for a game on the way to $100 and I start seeing pop-ups telling me about all the stuff I could be buying, I'm going to get pissed off. I know I'm not alone. In-game purchases and full-price games are something that people have been complaining about for the longest time. Never seems to get any better. In fact, I think it's gotten worse as game budgets go up and publishers get more desperate to make their money back. If a game is being sold full price, there is no reason it should be giving me a pop-up in the main menu about random cosmetics that I could be dropping $20 on in addition to the $70 I already dropped on the game. How does that math even make sense for a gamer? I think mainly about Call of Duty here. COD is a $70 game, but there's a lot of skins that are worth $20 or more? So is the whole game only worth 3 to 4 skins in their eyes? Who's doing the pricing? I mean, keep the aggressive in-game purchase pop-ups to free games. Get them out of priced ones. And at number 1 today, a trend that we all need to just go away is games as a service. Why does everything need to be a live service? Why is it that not even single-player games can just sit on their own anymore? I remember seeing some tweets about patch notes for entirely single-player games. Why? Why does something like Doom the Dark Ages need a patch note? Why do multiplayer games need to be so aggressively updated? What happened to just making a good game and leaving it up as is for people to enjoy, and then you fix the problems as they're discovered? Why does everything need to be so aggressively monetized and roadmapped? Why can't we just have good games that are good on day one and get gradually better with stability patches or small content updates? Everything now has to be updated every 5 seconds for tiny little things you'll never even notice. This whole games as a service thing, it honestly needs to die. Gamers are sick and tired of not feeling like their games are ever a complete product, not feeling like they even own their games after they paid for them, and having cosmetics and transactions rammed down their throats. There you have it, my friends. Those are trends that I would assume most of us are on the same page that we want out of the gaming industry. Let me know if you guys have any others I didn't think about. As always, I read every single comment on every single video, and I'll see you soon.